We often think of meaning as something we find in extraordinary moments, acts of heroism, grand achievements, or spiritual awakenings. But more often than not, meaning is forged within the ordinary. It emerges from the routines, struggles, and choices we make in our daily lives. The ordinary is not just a backdrop to our existence. It is the crucible in which purpose takes shape. This idea is reflected in some of the most powerful stories we tell. From Maximus in Gladiator to the Narrator in Fight Club. From Winston in 1984 to Gardner in the Pursuit of Happyness. Each of these characters begins in an ordinary world, one that for better or worse sets the stage for the meaning they will ultimately find. And behind these narratives lies the philosophy of Viktor Frankl, a man who discovered that even in the most difficult circumstances, meaning is something we create in response to our reality. Maximus begins Gladiator as a man of duty. His life is structured by discipline and service to Rome. His world, though familiar, is not one of personal ambition. It is one of commitment to something greater. When this world is stripped from him, his family murdered, his rank lost, his freedom taken, he does not abandon his sense of purpose. Instead, the very same principles that defined his ordinary life become the source of his resilience. Maximus does not find meaning by leaving his old life behind. He carries it with him. The skills, discipline, and loyalty he cultivated as a general do not disappear when he becomes a slave. They become his tools for survival and ultimately for justice. His ordinary world, built on duty and honour, is what enables him to endure and fight for something greater. Maximus' story reminds us that meaning is not something external that we must chase. It is something we cultivate within. The structure of our lives, the work we do, the values we uphold, the relationships we build. These ordinary aspects of life shape who we are. When challenges arrive, it is not some distant dream or extraordinary event that gives us strength, but the foundations we have built in our everyday existence. In 1984, Winston Smith lives in a world where meaning is dictated by the state. Every aspect of his life is controlled: his work, his thoughts, even his emotions. But it is within this bleak, rigid existence that Winston begins his search for meaning. The very oppression he faces forces him to question reality, to seek truth, and to hold on to something deeper than survival. His act of writing in a journal, his quiet rebellion, and his love affair with Julia are not simply acts of defiance. They are ways of asserting that meaning can exist, even in the face of control. Though his story ends in tragedy, his journey highlights something essential. Even in a world that seeks to strip life of meaning, the simple act of seeking it is an act of defiance. Many of us experience environments where we feel powerless, whether in work, society, or personal relationships. 1984 reminds us that even when the world seems to dictate our reality, we still have the ability to seek meaning within it. Winston's struggle shows that meaning is not about escape, but about engagement, about holding on to what matters, even when the world pushes against us. Not all ordinary worlds provide a healthy foundation for meaning. In Fight Club, the narrator begins in a life of modern consumerism, trapped in a cycle of buying furniture, working a job he hates, and numbing himself with distractions. His world provides comfort, but no purpose. His desire for meaning is what ultimately leads him to Tyler Durden and the philosophy of Fight Club. A philosophy that promises something raw, real, and meaningful. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that this rejection of the ordinary is not true meaning. It is destruction, masquerading as purpose. Fight Club shows us what happens when the search for meaning becomes an excuse for chaos. The narrator's journey reveals that meaning is not found by tearing everything down, but by consciously shaping the life we live. Many of us, at some point, feel disillusioned with routine, the monotony of work, the expectations of society. The endless cycle of consumerism can feel meaningless. But Fight Club warns us against mistaking rebellion for meaning. Simply rejecting what feels hollow does not create something meaningful in its place. Instead, we must actively build meaning through purpose, relationships, and values, not just destruction. Unlike the narrator in Fight Club, Gardner, in the Pursuit of Happyness, does not reject his ordinary world. He fights within it. His life is defined by struggle, homelessness, financial instability, and the pressure of providing for his son. But rather than seeing these hardships as barriers to meaning, Gardner finds purpose in his perseverance. His story is a testament to the idea that meaning is not found in ease or escape, but in the commitment to something greater than oneself. His love for his son, his belief in a better future, and his refusal to give up transform his ordinary struggles into a journey of purpose. Gardner's story challenges us to see struggle not as an absence of meaning, but as a place where meaning is forged. When life feels difficult, it is easy to believe that meaning exists somewhere else, somewhere easier, somewhere better. But Gardner's story, like Frankl's philosophy, reminds us that meaning is not about ideal circumstances. It is about how we respond to the life we have and the purpose we choose to create within it. Throughout these stories, one theme remains consistent. Meaning is not something handed to us. It is something we create through our response to the world. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, observed this firsthand in the concentration camps. He saw that those who survived were often those who found purpose, even in suffering. Frankl's philosophy is not about pretending hardship doesn't exist, nor is it about escaping into fantasy. It is about engagement. It is about recognizing that no matter how ordinary or difficult our world may be, we always have the ability to shape meaning within it. The ordinary world is not something to escape, it is something to shape. Whether through duty, struggle, defiance, or perseverance, the foundation of meaning is built within the world we live in every day. Maximus finds meaning in his duty. Winston in his search for truth. The narrator in Fight Club shows us what happens when meaning is sought in destruction. Gardner finds it in perseverance. And Viktor Frankl reminds us that ultimately, meaning is a choice we make in response to our world. As Frankl once wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. The ordinary is not the enemy of meaning, it is the place where it begins.